Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Masud and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So in today's video I just wanted to discuss my top 3 tips for when going on an interview for a job in NHS, and I'll be sort of giving you guys some common questions that I actually got asked, and a lot of my peers that I talked to actually did get asked as well. So without further ado, my first tip would be to learn the trust values. So wherever you're applying, so this would mostly relate to somebody applying to an NHS role or hospital. This is not a private practice. So regarding NHS institutions, they all have different trust values depending on the trust. You want to make sure that you research these beforehand, and have relevant examples that you show of each one. So what I mean is, for example, I went into an interview for St Bartholomew's Hospital in London, and their trust values were we care. So for example, the letters stood for like acronyms like welcoming, caring, respectful, empathetic, resilient, things like that. So you want to make sure you know the trust values and have a read of them on the trust website, and then make your own examples of how you actually demonstrate these skills, because it's more than likely the trust that you'll be interviewing for will ask you about their trust values. I know when I got interviewed, I actually got given like a little handout or a little card which had the trust values already on them. So even though I learned them already, they gave them to me, and then they asked me, can you give me 2 examples of how you demonstrate 2 of these skills? And then I had to think of my own examples from my experience of how I demonstrate it. So that's a key thing, and which leads me to my next point or tip. Make sure you have specific examples of everything you do, because you're going to get asked clinical scenario questions. So make sure you have some pre-made answers ready for you to discuss and be able to talk about in your answers. So they're always going to be asked, they always want you to relate back to your experience as a student, or whatever job you did. They always want you to relate back to your experience. So be specific, say what happened, say what was the outcome, was it positive or negative, and reflect on it at the end. So what did you actually learn from the experience, and then how can you feed that back to the interviewers in a nice, concise way. So make sure you write this down and practice it in your room, because it's more than likely this is a thing that I've got asked, and many of my peers have got asked before. Clinical scenario questions, very, very common, so make sure you're prepared. Okay, my last tip, very, very simple, and it's a no-brainer actually. Make sure you dress smart and you look good, because appearances go a long way, and first appearances especially. So make sure you just you don't have to overdo it, you don't have to overdress, but it's better to be overdressed than underdressed, I say. So wear like a smart shirt, some smart trousers, and some smart shoes. Don't come in a blazer and chinos, or if you are wearing chinos, make sure they're like black and they're just smart. Make sure it's smart and it's professional. You don't want to come across as like you didn't really like you're not really concerned about the interview. So and that comes across anyway. So that's something that I really don't even should tell you guys. You probably already know that, but let's go into my common questions that I actually have experienced, and some of my peers have experienced as well. So coming in at number 1, what do you know about clinical governance? They'll ask you a question relating to an MSK, respiratory, neuro, or an elderly patient. For example, they'll give you a clinical scenario question where, for example, a 55-year-old man has come in with lower back pain and unilateral pain referring down his left leg. What would be the red flags that you would check for? So definitely red flags. What would be the contraindications for doing any sort of treatment? So the next question would be something like, what do you think or do you feel your role as a physiotherapist is in the NHS? I try and relate this one back to a publication by the NHS called the NHS 5-Year Forward Plan. It gives basically the plan for the future, and where the NHS plans for physiotherapists to be. So in that plan, there's more of an emphasis on integration of physiotherapists within the community to allow for reduced pressure off acute hospitals and acute care, and to save resources. So we want to empower people to manage their care themselves. So as physiotherapists, we're one of the key health professionals who can encourage those qualities for people to actually take control of their own health, rather than actually seeking advice and seeking treatment where it may not so be needed, like in an acute hospital. So yeah. Okay guys, that's all I could think of for today. If you had any questions, or you wanted to know the answers to those questions that I just gave out, I want you to leave me your answers to what you think would be the right answer to those questions in the comments, and I'll actually get back to you with the answer that I actually gave. There's no right answer, but I just like to know and help out wherever you guys need it. But yeah, that's basically everything. Hope you enjoyed the video, and take care.